Now arriving at Thomastown.
Welcome to This Thomo Life, proudly brought to you by Yarra Plenty Regional Libraries, Thomastown branch. Welcome to This Thomo Life. I'm your host, Dean Mirando. On today's program, we have Justine Sless and Dee Wild. Justine is the manager of Thomastown Neighbourhood House. Dee Wild is a project officer for Thomastown Neighbourhood House. She's out with a bit of a back injury at the moment, so we wish her all the best. Here's Justine talking about how T&H formed.
So the Olive Tree Neighbourhood House was the original Thomastown Neighbourhood House, and that closed in 2010 for mainly around governance issues. It's very rare for the department to close neighbourhood houses. So it was closed, and then neighbourhood houses, there are 400 plus in Victoria, and within each local government area there is a networker, and the networker does a range of things, supports neighbourhood houses around governance, around employment issues, and training opportunities. And it also does lobbying. So the networker for the Northeast region lobbied to the State of Victoria, the Department of Health and Human Services, to reinstate the funds for a Thomastown Neighbourhood House. So in 2012, in June, that money was granted, and it's an ongoing recurrent funding with the Department of Human Services. There was one slight issue. Neighbourhood house funding had been granted, but there was no house, and there was no establishment funding. So the person who was running that project, Barbara Jackson, she was liaising heavily with all the organisations in Thomastown, and they came upon the brilliant idea of housing the neighbourhood house at the Thomastown Library. So when I took on the role in December 2012, Thomastown Neighbourhood House was an empty room in the library. There were no desks, there were no chairs. I think there was a laptop. So the challenge for the manager, me, in that role, was to establish a neighbourhood house, and that was done by referring back to a consultation, which was one of those whiz-bang consultations, massively funded, never implemented because there was a change of government. And essentially the things that were talked about repeatedly in that consultation, which focused on Thomastown and Laylaw, were people wanted places to gather, a sense of pride in place, and opportunities to celebrate their cultures, and opportunities for adult education learning, which is essentially the remit, the brief of a neighbourhood house. So I started the job in 2012. In March, we ran an event called the Amazing Race Round Thomastown, which was a way of engaging people not just with Thomastown as a suburb, but with the neighbourhood house as a branding exercise as well. And we worked with the library on that. Much to my amazement, 1,052 people came to that event. I'd been in the job 6 weeks. It didn't indicate that I was a great marketer. What it indicated was a need for people to have a place to gather and meet. It was a free day. We got an iPad as a giveaway. And so I sat down at my desk one day, and my desk was in the neighbourhood house room, and I sat there for the whole day having a little meeting with myself. And I guess I'd always thought that it would be programming that I would be doing, programming, adult education, English, computer classes. And I sat for a long time, and then I knew there was some money because the house had been funded in June, but they didn't employ the manager till December. And there was also a bit of money from the consultation, Shape Your Future. So I decided that I wouldn't focus on programming, I would focus on community engagement through events. And so that was the catalyst for creating the Toddly Thomastown mini festival series. So we did that for the whole of 2012. What was essential to that the success of that was engaging volunteers because I was a sole worker. So those events were a little bit out the box. So we had stilt walkers down Main Street. We had Dame Edna stunt double do some incredible acrobatics in the entrance of the library, which, truth be known, defied every risk management plan going. And we brought snow to Thomastown.
We set it up like any other event. I think there are a couple of posters put up, but it was predominantly a social media driven promoted event. We don't pay for Facebook advertising. It was just a Facebook event, and we treated it the same way that we did the market that was a week later. This event got thousands of people attending the event. It got thousands of people sharing the event, talking about the event in the lead up, on the day, and then after. It was the incredible just how it captured people's attention, and the event took off in a way that was a bit unforeseen. We didn't spend anything in terms of marketing it. We put our money back into craft activities, petting farms, things that people can enjoy, rather than spending money on advertising. And you could only do that through social media, through our Facebook and our Instagram, Twitter, our website, and our e-newsletter. So that does allow us to spend money we do have on a good term brochure. That means we can deliver this. It means that we can be delivering programs, and we're not spending all that. Yeah, so why everybody isn't doing the same thing, Neighbourhood House or not. And again, even that relationship between our social media presence with the libraries, we both share each other's things, we both tag it. It's reflection of that relationship in all its forms that is really, really key.
Because I thought, I kept going back to the thing that lots of people come to this event, to the amazing race around Thomastown, and I was proved right. We had 800 to 1,500 people come to every event. I think they ran every 8 weeks. It was a busy year. And then I kept, and we engaged lots of volunteers. We had up to 60 volunteers over that year, from students on placement, international students, volunteers who lived locally. And also what it consolidated was the relationship with the library. So if you're going to live or work or do anything in Thomastown, the Main Street precinct is the place to do it, because in my experience as a community development worker for 20 years, Thomastown has been the hardest nut to crack. And I put that down mainly to the way that the suburb is laid out. So the library, yes, is a natural gathering place, but you have to just come to the library. It's not on your way to the post office or to the shops or to the childcare centre. You have to come to the library. So that was the first year of establishment. We were auspiced, and the next year was equally busy. We ran a twilight market outdoors at Track, and then, much to my joy, we employed Dee Wild. And Dee and I have worked together kind of tangentially. We kind of cross paths on another market at another neighbourhood house in another suburb. And Dee came on board to support the development and implementation of the market and really get our social media up to speed.
Fantastic segue, Justine. Now to Dee.
I think you're right in terms of that it's a tough nut to crack in terms of the layout of the suburb and engaging people and sort of figuring out exactly what people want. So we run the twilight market outside at Track, and then running outdoor markets in Melbourne is fraught. Yeah. It's hailing one day, it's 40 degrees the next, you can't pick it. So again, that brilliant relationship with the library, we moved the market indoors to the library, and that's kind of been the catalyst for creating that monthly space for people to gather, supporting micro businesses, growing our social media and engaging a lot more of the community.
And we're back talking to Justine Sless and Dee Wild about the monthly markets at T&H.
So the monthly market, whilst we went really big in that initial stage of developing partnerships, trying to get, the latest buzzword at the time was precinct activation. Engage Bulbul Willem, the early Aboriginal Early Years Centre, the high school, the primary school, the aquatic centre, the library. It was no mean feat. I worked 24 hours a week and Dee works 6 hours a week. But what I kept finding was we ended up being the lead agent, which is just burnout. The not-for-profit sector, like many sectors, is renowned for burnout, and burnout I did.
A smaller monthly market inside the library has the same impact in terms of supporting the same number of people in microbusiness and providing opportunities there, but the workload is extremely more manageable.
Yeah.
It gains its own rhythm and momentum. It becomes that place where people gather. There's plenty of free activities. Kids can come and craft and play, and mothers can sit and enjoy, and so it becomes that space then that allows sort of conversation facilitation. It allows all of those sorts of things without having to set up 25 marquees in the 40-degree heat, which is not fun for anyone.
And it also consolidated the relationship with the library.
Yes.
And also it made us really understand what ultimately the suburb of Thomastown want in terms of a market, and kind of those other suburbs, Lalor, Mill Park. We came in very much with Northcote sensibilities, that we would do a craft market, upcycled, recycled. I would say Marnie's Road is the new Bell Street in terms of that gentrification divide, and we've learnt this, that you might come with an idea and you think that an event is going to be one thing. The market will be a reflection of crafts and we envisage homegrown produce, a display perhaps of multicultural skills. But what's happened in fact is that the market has become 2/3 trash and treasure, and 1/3 kind of soy candles, jewellery, some cards, but that's not to say it's not a great market. It's a great market. It's monthly. It's indoor, first Saturday of the month. We've had stallholders attend nearly for the whole year. When we know anecdotally, we know that people come to the market not because they want to make money, but because of the connection.